And Lee, I want to turn to you. You, of course, are filing today a brief to the Supreme Court. So what is the argument that you're making to say that Title 42 should end?
Yes, thanks for having me. We'll be filing literally any second, and we are going to make two central points. The first is that Title 42 was never supposed to be permanent. It was a temporary measure to respond to the pandemic. No one, including the states that are trying to intervene in this case, claims there's a COVID emergency anymore. So it's a complete pretext to be misusing the public health laws. What we're also going to be saying is that Title 42 is doing horrific damage. It may seem like a technical policy, it may seem very abstract, but thousands and thousands of people, including families with little children, have been sent directly back into danger, including right into the hands of cartels. The major flaw with Title 42 is not that it stops everyone from getting asylum. We have never said that everyone who's coming is entitled to asylum. What Title 42 does, though, is prevent anybody from getting an asylum hearing. No asylum hearing whatsoever is permitted under Title 42. That's the flaw. We have to return to our regular immigration laws that were in existence before the pandemic. Those provisions allow the federal government to deport people very quickly, contrary to what the states may be saying. But the critical difference is that although they allow quick deportations, they first provide people with an asylum hearing so that those who have credible asylum claims can come in. Others will be deported routinely. But what you hear from the states is the attempt to misconstrue what's going on as if there's no Title 42, there's open borders. That's not true. There are plenty of ways to remove aliens immigrants who don't get, who can't show asylum, but at least they will get a chance to show that. Title 42 is summary expulsion without any asylum hearing, and it's basically sending people directly into the hands of cartels.
I also want to ask you, Lee, when the Supreme Court calls for responses, typically that means that the full court will now be involved in deciding the matter. So tell me a little bit about when you think that this issue might get resolved. What's the timeline you're expecting here?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a difficult question. So right now, Title 42 would be in place regardless of what the Supreme Court did, because as you mentioned in your opening, it wasn't supposed to end until midnight tonight, 12:01 a.m. East Coast time. So at 12:01, if the Supreme Court has not acted, Title 42 will remain in place, unfortunately. We don't know when the Supreme Court will act. I think you're right that Chief Justice Roberts, who issued the temporary administrative stay, will refer it to the full court. It's possible they act before midnight and lift the stay. That's what we're hoping for. So Title 42 ends as it was intended to end from the district court's ruling. But it also could be a number of days before the Supreme Court acts. Ultimately, we hope that they will deny the stay. We are prepared to go through the appeals, but we don't think, given the blatant illegality of Title 42, that it should remain in place while appeals go forward.
And Lee, there are some lawmakers like Governor Greg Abbott who are saying that this is going to result, if Title 42 is lifted, that it's going to result in chaos, a humanitarian crisis of a different kind. What's your response to that, given, and how confident are you that there's a real plan if Title 42 is lifted to not have that sort of humanitarian crisis?
So I think the federal government has a plan, but unfortunately, because the states are trying to intervene, it's created uncertainty about whether Title 42 will be there or not. I think the one thing I would emphasize is if you close the border, of course, people are going to be backed up. So perhaps there is going to be short-term influxes, but I don't think that's going to last. I think what we're going to do is get through that quick backlog at the border, put processes in place, and people will get hearings, hopefully. I think the federal government has more than enough resources if it wants to provide processes at the border. They just need to prioritize that. And I think no one should judge by what's going on for the next couple of days to then extrapolate from there about how this would work on a more long-term basis. We can make this work. We just now need to move away from the temporary pandemic measure, Title 42, and use regular immigration procedures. If people don't think that we've come through immigration laws, strike the proper balance between migration flows and asylum hearings, that can be debated, but we cannot misuse the public health laws. That is a very dangerous precedent to continue misusing these public health laws.
And briefly, you're saying that the federal government, you think, has the resources, but there are some cities that these migrants end up getting bused to. So I wonder, how confident are you that this is going to not be more dangerous for those migrants potentially if they end up in cities without the resources that they could get or that they need?
Well, I think the NGOs are prepared, the cities, states, I think we all need to do the right thing to get the resources, but I don't think anything could be more dangerous than what Title 42 is doing, literally sending them back into the hands of cartels or sending them to countries like Haiti. I think we'll have to do our best to get the resources. The resources are there, but Title 42 has to end. The harm is really horrific. I mean, I think the border is out of sight, out of mind for a lot of people, but what's going on is really tragic.
Yeah. Well, Lee, thank you so much of the ACLU, right? And of course, the filing there.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.